You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. Yeah, I got fooled today.
What happened?
This morning. Well, first of all, I woke up and did the thing where, like, you hit the alarm and then you go back to bed. Because my oldest, okay, who's about to be 13 in about a month and a half here.
Yes.
She's very responsible.
Yes.
She always has her alarm set and gets up anyway. So I'm like, I'm just going to lay down. Her alarm will go off in about 5 minutes and then I'll move, right? Next thing I hear is, Dad, it's almost school time. I just woke up. And like, I just went back to bed for like an hour.
Was that the 13-year-old?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
boy.
she discovers it. The other two idiots, they're asleep, the two boys.
Right.
Okay? I mean, the 3-year-old and the 10-year-old, they're out. They both are in the same room with each other, they're out. Now, the 3-year-old's been suffering from a cold. So I'd already decided he wasn't going to preschool today. Who cares if he doesn't see his shapes for a day?
Nah,
He's
you
sick.
see shapes,
You know what I'm saying?
you sing your alphabet, you play games.
Right.
You
But
do-
what,
right,
what
exactly.
happened was the 10-year-old comes walking out and has a few coughs. And he's been staying with, of course, in the same room as a guy who's been sick.
Right.
So he's like, I'm sick, Dad. Feel terrible. I'm sick. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, I'm running late already. The other one's like in a scramble. Like, God forbid she's tardy. I mean, it's not going to ruin her permanent record, but that's how she's acting. She's just flying through the house. She's making herself breakfast. She's throwing stuff in her bag. Like, her whole life is coming to a crashing halt because she's going to be 5 minutes late walking into class.
Well, she's very responsible.
She's like a
That's
straight A
good.
student. She
That's
doesn't
good.
need to worry about this stuff, but she's a wreck. And the other guy's like, I'm sick. And I'm like, fine, man. Stay home. You're staying with your brother. You're probably coming down with what he has. No biggie. Stay home. It has been a laugh riot in that living room in front of my television set for the last 2 hours with these two morons. They're wrestling with each other.
Yeah.
They're doing headstands on the couch. Every time I walk in there, it's a friggin' party in their
Headstands.
pajamas.
Like
these two.
they're breakdancing?
No. Well, what they're doing is they're laying off the couch, putting their head on there, and then trying to lift their legs up and balance without their hands. So of course they're clearly deathly ill and couldn't go to school. today.
Listen, man,
I got totally fooled today.
you got Ferris Bueller, dude.
Oh, I got Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
I wish Michael Kopech was faking it.
No, he's not faking
like
it.
as my father said on the phone when I broke the news to him, we're cursed. That was the first thing he said.
Well,
he called me up about something completely different. I'm like, I know why you're calling me. Like I had that depressed sound.
that was kind of
I
like
know why you're calling
that
me.
was
He's like,
kinda-
no, what do you mean? My uncle also, I had an uncle that I don't see very often, but who passed away this week. And he's thinking that we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
So he's all like, yeah, I know. And it's not his brother or brother-in-law. It's on my mother's side. And I'm like, I know why you're calling. He's like, you know why I'm calling? Like, I know that my uncle's dead. And instead I'm like, Kopech's injured. And he stops thinking about the fact that a family member is dead.
Oh, God.
And immediately goes to, what do you mean he's injured? And I go, UCL tear, out until 2020. And he just starts screaming on the phone. Like, I didn't even hear about my uncle till later on that day when my mother called to be like, your father told you earlier about your uncle, right? I'm like, no, we talked about Michael Kopech for 20 minutes.
Who cares about this damn? Who cares about this damn uncle?
Who cares about the uncle?
Nucleus is hurt.
Michael Kopech's UCL 2020. We're a disaster. Like right away, he's like, we're cursed. This team is cursed.
So-
He's beside himself. He was coming on the show this week. He can't bring himself to talk about the White Sox. He's destroyed right now.
Oh, he was going to be down
My
here
old
this
man
week?
is destroyed this week. He's
Oh,
so
boy.
upset.
Well, it was funny because that was kind of what happened with us. I called you just for some, it was Friday night or something. I was on my way home from work. I called you just for some, I called you to find out about what time your barbecue
Right, I was in a rib
competition was gonna
competition
be. Yeah,
this weekend that you came and hung out
and
at
you-
with your lovely wife.
And you
Yeah.
lost, but that's okay.
Listen,
you know.
I placed top 8th in the first round of a competition with 40 different competitors. I placed top 8th.
So I called
And
you.
then I didn't make it to the finals because they do some weird bracket system. So I lost to like bad luck and the wrong circle of judges. But the 8th highest score in the first round, I'll take that. That means I can cook ribs.
So I called you to find out the particulars of it. You answer the phone. You're like, yeah. You didn't even
I
say
was
hello.
disgusted.
You didn't
I
even
was
say
like,
hello.
oh.
You're like,
Yeah, because I
what?
figured you were calling me too about it. Like,
And
yeah.
I was like, I didn't even know about it. I'm like, yeah. Hey, I'm like, dude, what time is your thing tomorrow? He's like, dude, Kopech's injured.
My whole day
And I'm
ended.
like,
It was
yeah.
the middle of the day, and I'm sitting here on the couch. My wife comes down the stairs. She's doing laundry because she was working from home that day. And she comes walking down the stairs. And she goes, "What's up with you?" I'm like, "Oh, Kopech." She goes, "Well, who's Kopech?" I'm like,
Who's Kopech? Nice.
She actually told the kids, "Leave your father alone. Something's wrong downstairs. He's sitting on the couch with his head down, looking at his phone. Something bad has happened." Like, I heard her upstairs. Like, the little guy wanted to go downstairs. Like, "Where's Daddy?" Like, "Leave Daddy alone. Something's wrong." I don't know what's wrong yet. I haven't talked to him yet. He looks like he's gonna cry. That was the scene in the Lanuti house.
It was just a bad weekend for you.
Let's review sports in Chicago.
Okay,
Let's review
all
sports
right.
in Chicago.
If you will.
In fact, let's review my sporting life in Chicago
Let's.
this week. Okay?
Let's do this.
The one
Okay.
thing I love to do every Wednesday night, like this show posts on Wednesday evenings, and then I go out and I play 16-inch softball. Rained out. So the one thing I love doing, I got a half inning in and never got to bat, and a thunderstorm opens up, and all of a sudden I'm unable to go out and play. It ruined my Wednesday night.
Well, at least you didn't lose.
Right. Then I go out and I play on Thursday night against a guy. I'm playing basketball, which I'm terrible at, but I joined this league for the exercise. I go out on Thursday night with every intention of just getting some exercise, and I match up at guard with the guy who hit the game-winning shot for Brother Rice back in 1995 in the sectional championship.
Danny Maloney.
Okay, and he's 20-some years later. There's an obvious difference. He's a basketball player, and I played saxophone in the band. That was obvious throughout the entire game. Plus, I'm fat, and I had to keep going to the bench because I was tired every 2 minutes.
The crowd is out there going, "You still got it."
Yeah, not for me, okay?
No, not for you.
No, and he was going easy on me because he's a nice guy, okay? Then Friday, the news breaks for Kopech. I'm destroyed. Saturday, I go and I'm in this rib competition. I place 8th, like I said, in the first round, but because of a technicality, don't make it in the finals. So I'm equally upset about that.
And then Sunday.
Okay? And then Sunday, the Bears have the most gut-wrenching loss I've ever experienced watching a football game this early in a season. It's the first weekend. To me, the whole thing's over. Trubisky looked like I was a total in Mitch We Trust guy, man. Mitchapalooza. The last 2 minutes, he looked like a deer in headlights. The head coach we went out and get to the exact same thing that screwed up his playoff game, and everybody was like, "Well, no, it wasn't him. It was Andy Reid who took his foot off the gas and allowed that team to get back in the game." No, guess who it was? It's the guy we hired. And it was Aaron Rodgers on one leg.
So
all of this.
Meanwhile,
the White Sox haven't won a game since Kopech got hurt.
No, they haven't.
We're 0-4
No, they haven't.
Kopech. Like, we haven't gotten anything. I mean, now I'm going back and forth on whether or not I just want to just keep losing. Maybe we'll get a better draft pick. But I'm excited about what the players are doing. So here's what I want to do on the show.
So real quick,
Here's
before
what I
you
wanna do on the show
start,
today. I want you to talk me off the ledge because I am destroyed over this whole Kopech thing, and I feel like this has set us back at least a full year. And then I want to go through the motions and look at some of these battles we've been talking about for 2019 and how things have gone over the last week, and we'll get into some other fun stuff. So go ahead, give it your best shot, because in my mind, we are going to go through 2019 waiting for Dylan Cease now, and we're going to get Jimenez, but my hope for playoff run, unexpected playoff run, or at least 500 or over 500 season is dashed.
And I close my eyes. Now I know why I feel.
Why, Michael? Why?
Open wide as I fight to move it.
Come back!
And
Come
I
back!
weep as I die for you.
It's over.
I don't think so.
It's another complete rebuild year.
I don't think so.
Why?
Okay, because I'm looking at a couple of post All-Star break stats right now. So we're going to focus this discussion clearly on the starting five, okay? Because that's what took a hit this week, is the starting five. Because you're counting on next year Kopech having a full year of development, and so he's an absolute stud by 2020.
Rodon,
that's what you're
Kopech,
counting on.
Rodon, Kopech, Lopez, Giolito, and throw in a fifth. have some competition from some of these guys in AAA that I've enjoyed watching. Cease comes up late in the year. Okay, we go into the 2019-2020 offseason and maybe make a surprise and grab ourselves a big free agent pitcher to throw in the mix as well or fill a hole. We go make a move and grab Nolan Arenado, and we're off to the races in 2020.
So here's where I'm at with it. I think that even though this whole losing Kopech thing for a year sucks, all right, it's not going to set the entire rebuild back a whole year. Now, I got a couple of stats here that I want to just throw at you, and I'm sure you've probably seen this already.
No, I've had a real hard time looking at White Sox baseball.
We're gonna look at post All-Star break WHIP. We're gonna look at that particular stat because I know that this WHIP is very important.
It's my favorite thing.
And
WHIP is my favorite pitching stat. I use it to win fantasy baseball championships. I'm on the cusp of winning another one because I just go out and get pitchers based upon WHIP.
Okay,
WHIP,
so
WHIP.
So you love your WHIP. Now, looking at some post All-Star break WHIPs, okay? Carlos Rodon post All-Star break WHIP, all right? He is at a 1.01. So he is right there in stud territory for you.
Oh, yeah,
okay,
he's a total stud.
So he's clearly
No,
your
he's
ace.
a total ace
so
of
hang
staff.
on. So
if he
hang on.
continues to do this, he's an ace of staff. And not only is he an ace of staff, he's an all-star and Cy Young candidate.
So,
I don't know if it's going to continue, but that's what he is.
Okay, so he's obviously your number one, okay? Now, something that I want to call your attention to here, you may or may not be aware of it. What was the number, Chris? What's the WHIP number that you want to see your starters at?
Under 1.30 at minimum.
Okay, Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, okay? If you, just guessing, if you don't have this post All-Star break stats in front of you, what would you guess their WHIP is for each of them post All-Star break?
Well, I think Giolito's actually had a really good post All-Star break.
Yes.
So if I had to pick one of them being under that, I would go with Giolito, but I would think that Lopez is above it.
Both Giolito and Lopez right now currently sitting at a 1.27 WHIP, both of them.
Well, that's
post
good.
All-Star
That's
break.
surprising. I'm happy
So,
with that.
so what you're seeing there is you're seeing a trend, I think, that these two guys that you are counting on in 2019 and going forward, they are starting to figure it out.
Right, but
okay?
who are you
so
going to have pitch next year?
So
who are
you
your
have
five pitchers next year?
So you have Carlos Rodon, Giolito, Lopez. Those are your starting
All right.
three.
So
okay?
what's different from that?
Now,
what's different?
So what you would have to then do is James Shields is not. We would have to renew James Shields' contract.
And I don't
want to
do that.
and you don't want to do that.
No, I don't.
So
I
what
think
you
we're
do
gonna
is
have to,
so
but now we have to. I feel
now you have to, but that's not.
But I didn't want to.
But that again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. James Shields. Total WHIP since the All-Star break, not what you would want it, but it's not far off. He's at a 1.4, okay? Looking at his ERA post All-Star break, not very good, 4.9. But the thing about Shields is he eats a lot of innings. Besides Carlos Rodon, he has pitched the most innings post All-Star break at 60.2. Plus, with as young as the pitching staff is, you still need that veteran presence. So if it's Shields, great. If you don't want Shields, if you don't like what he's selling,
you don't have a choice.
Well, you can go out and get somebody.
Why would you do that?
Somebody.
If you really believe that eventually guys are going to come along and you really are aiming for still 2020 being in competition, what are you going to do? Go give Lance Lynn money?
No.
You're not going to do it. Unless somebody takes a 1-year contract that's
talking,
less than $16 million and is a good pitcher, you're kind of stuck with Shields because guess what? I don't know who your fifth starter is right now.
Well, that's where the competition opens up with all the spring training competition, and that's when you start seeing what all of these guys.
By the way, I did look up.
You.
Shields is a 1.31 WHIP right now, so he's a manageable pitcher overall for the whole year. So if you look at his whole year, you can sit there and say, okay, he is what he is.
I mean, he's a fourth or fifth starter.
But like
that's
I said,
fine.
I like the debate over whether or not you bring him back. Now I feel like it's like you have to.
Right. You bring him back for
I hate that.
Bring him back for 2 years.
No, you bring him back for one. He's
or
got
bring
a
him back
1-year
for
option.
one.
Just
Or
pick up his
I thought
option.
it was a one. I
No,
thought it was a
pick up his
2-year
option.
option.
No,
So
you
you
pick
pick
up
up
his option.
So you pick up his option. So then you have to have a competition between Cease and everybody else who you have.
Cease isn't
down
coming
there.
up. Cease is not. Cease is at the AA level. He's going to get treated just like everybody else. They are not going to rush Cease.
They're not going to
up.
rush him up.
Cease will start in AAA next year. You watch. He will start in AAA, and they will not bring him up until they are ready and they have seen what they want to see. Rick Hahn has an idea about what he wants to see. Just like, I mean, like you could sit there and say service time is the only reason they're keeping Jimenez down. But
No,
all
it's
the
not.
reports I read is that he's not playing defense very well, and they don't want to have their top prospect be a DH. And I get that. If that's what they want, whatever. And why rush him now? Why rush him now? Because this is there's a setback. This is a massive setback. The Kopech thing is a massive setback.
But what I'm saying is, between those four guys that we mentioned, Rodon, Shields, Giolito, Lopez, okay, you pick up Shields' option, you have 4 out of 5 starting pitchers, and then you let the kids duke it out for that 5th spot.
I know, but I mean, like, I wanted...
And you can still win with that.
This isn't what I wanted.
No, I know it's not what you wanted, but that's what you're getting.
This isn't what I wanted.
That's what you're getting.
I'm hurt by this. It hurts me deeply.
Chris, you can't always get what you want.
Stop it. Stop it.
But if you try sometimes,
stop it.
You might just get what you need. It's not the end of the world, dude. You're talking about, listen, the starting pitching staff.
It feels like the end of the world. Do you understand how here's the thing.
Hang on. The starting pitching staff, to me, is the least of this team's worries. The fact that this team can't hit anything is a problem. The fact that this team can't put a bullpen together is a bigger problem than I think finding 5 guys, 4 of which you already have, to fill out a starting 5 pitching rotation next year. And yes, it sucks that Kopech is out, but you know what? He's still going to be back in 2020.
And
number one.
And you know what? And everybody, Tommy John, I'm not worried about his career being over. A lot of these guys come back better than they already were.
I was just going to say that.
But I hate losing the year of him learning and getting better and being like a cornerstone of this team. Think about the charge that he gave the White Sox. And then look at how they've gone flat since he got hurt. And it made so much of a difference to this team to have that other big gun out there on the mound. And I don't know what you do now. We're going to look at it in the offseason. Like, I'm very excited about the offseason. I just started the process of setting up a phone number. Next week, we're going to debut the ability for you to be able to call in and leave comments for the show as we continue to expand the show. And I'm excited about the offseason because I want to delve into what should we do and what can we do. And, I'm almost ready for September to end just so we can get to the fun stuff. But I am very curious about how all these position battles and what we're doing for 2019 how they're gonna finish up. But he was such a spark, and it was just such a great thing to see things coming together, and then to have the door just slammed in your face. It just hurts so much. It hurts.
Right, but again, it's one guy. It's one guy.
Yeah, but he's a really good guy. If it was Dylan Covey, I wouldn't be as upset.
If you're comparing
no offense, Dylan.
Right. If you're comparing it to other sports, okay, this is not the same thing as a starting quarterback going down. Okay, this is not the same thing as this is not the same thing as as your starting goalie going down. Okay, this is not the same thing as if
This is close. This is a top end pitcher. Top end pitchers can make a big difference with a team. Top-end pitchers make a big difference with it. Now, look, I love the fact they've gone out and they've gotten a ton of prospects. And I feel like they got this huge pool of pitching prospects that are going to start to come of age here during this next season.
Yes.
And they're going to start breaking out in 2020. I would have felt better if some of them were a year or two ahead, even if they're not at Kopech's level, because then I'd be like, okay, well, we're going to get to see Dane Dunning some more. Or, Dylan Cease is ready now. But these guys, I don't think they're going to be ready to start 2019.
No, they won't be ready to start.
And that's the thing. So now you have to sit around and figure out what you're going to do.
You have your team when it comes to 2019, and we've talked about this. You have your team that you start the year with, and you have your team that you end the year with. So it's very possible, Chris, that you're going to see a lot of things start to take shape, not until mid-year 2019.
You know who's got a hell of a whip? Who's got a hell of a whip leading the team right now for the entire season?
Sure.
Matt Davidson. Start stretching him out for 2019.
Well, since they won't play him at third.
Oh, God almighty, that's driving me nuts.
Hey, this is Acoustic Mike from Broadcast Basement, and you're listening to Sox in the Basement with Chris and his buddy Dave. I did the Broadcast Basement with Chris for 10 years, and nobody gave me a show. I'd leave if I had anything else to do with my life.
Remember, the Broadcast Basement is available everywhere podcasts can be found and always at broadcastbasement.com. Dear Ricky, the Cubs are coming to the rate in about a week and a half, and you have a decision to make. I've already seen Joe Madden on television talking about how the Cubs are pretty much going to be at home for most of September. He means that those 3 games are home games for the Cubs. Remember, he replaced you. Remember, they threw you out like garbage. And remember, your team is slipping now since the Kopech injury. It's time to restore some order. It's time to give this team something to fight for. And it's time to take your big three pitchers and make sure they are aligned for that series. I want to see Rodon. I want to see Lopez. I want to see Giolito. I want them to gain the experience of playing in a high-pressure game. You can't buy that kind of experience. So adjust your rotation. Do the right thing and make it a series. Don't let them come in and push you around. Because if things continue like they've been going over the last week, and this team just lays down in their home park to the crosstown rivals, and you continue to fall apart because of this injury, maybe time to call Joe Girardi. Think about it. Ricky, make sure your boys don't quit.
Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement.
Let's
Since
take a
they
look
won't
at
play in the
look at
third.
some of the position battles.
Sure.
Okay, because I that's what I want to do. I want to take a look at some of the position battles that we've been talking about, and the guys that honestly I just think that like this is. I'm looking at post All-Star break stats. We've been talking about Daniel Pelka.
Okay.
We've been talking about Matt Davidson. We've been talking about Nicky Delmonico, and like I said last week, I believe Yolmer Sanchez thrown in that mix now. 4 guys, 2 of them need to come out and shine and win a job.
Okay.
If Eloy is coming up next year and is going to play the field. Because I do believe that Matt Davidson should have a chance at taking third base, which would then kick Yolmer to a utility infield position, which I think that would be the best case scenario if they would just give him a chance. And I do think that you don't have a lot of room out in the outfield with Garcia, which I don't think they're giving up on.
No.
And Pelka and Delmonico. Now, and everybody's always like, Pelka. Pelka got the most home runs that any lefties had for the White Sox in his rookie year, in his first season with them. Like all these stats. But when you look at the players, let's take a look at how these guys are doing, okay?
All right. I got it right here.
Well, I've got it 2 in front of me, so we can follow along with each other. The highest OPS of the 3 of them,
Davidson.
or the 4 of them, is Matt Davidson. He's got an 810 OPS.
Yeah.
Okay, he's hit 264 with a 331 on base percentage and 479 slugging. He has dropped off a little bit since the last time we've talked, but post All-Star break, the guy continues to show that he belongs there. Pelka is stepping it up. Pelka, but I think he's like an ebb and flow type guy. He's hot, he's not hot. He's hot, he's not hot. It really kind of depends on what's going on that week and what his matchup is with who's out on the mound. He still can't get that OBP over 300 anytime I click on any kind of split stat. I have a real hard time finding like, he's getting on base at least 3 out of every 10 times.
No,
I can't find that with
he's
him.
not. Here's
No matter
his
how
thing.
I split the stats up.
His walk to strikeout ratio is really bad. Okay, he's got
Really
8
bad.
He's got 8 walks to
And
50
strikeouts since the All-Star break.
So second only to Yeoman. Actually, no, third. I'm sorry to.
Right. Well, you know who else has a really bad strikeout to walk ratio is Delmonico. In fact,
Yes, I'm looking
and
at that.
Delmonico's losing the job. Okay, I'm at this point, unless something strange happens, Delmonico's out next year.
Delmonico's only batting 200.
He's hitting 200 since the
All-Star
All-Star break. Okay, he's got an on-base percentage of 264. He's entirely replaceable on this team with the way that Davidson is hitting and what Yolmer Sanchez gives you. The guy who's going to be the odd man out is going to be Nicky Delmonico.
Yeah.
Unless something crazy happens, Nicky Delmonico, I think at this point, I feel like we're like on election night, and I'm calling the state of Missouri at this point based upon the results. Because looking at what's going on, Nicky Delmonico is not even comparable to the charge that Pelka gives you from the left side of the plate and what he's doing for you. I mean, basically, Pelka and Delmonico are the same guy, except Pelka is clutch and Pelka is better in pretty much every category by a little bit more than what Delmonico's doing. He's the guy.
Right.
He wins that battle. And like I said, Davidson, I think, has a lot of value. You're not getting rid of him. So if you look at that contest, we've been saying it all year, 3 men enter, 1 man leaves. Davidson's the 1 man. Okay. If you move Davidson to third and let Yolmer become the utility guy, Pelka has an easy, clear spot on this team. He can fill in at first. He can go out into the corner outfield positions.
Platoon
he can
him at DH,
and he can DH. And he's a bat on the left side, and he's just going to get better. I like him. So when I look at it now, I just feel like here's Nicky. He had this great year last year, but he wasn't able to continue it. And with Eloy coming up, I think he's the guy that when the music stops doesn't have a chair. Do you think otherwise?
I pretty much I agree with you. I had been on even last year, man, something about Delmonico just didn't really impress me. I mean, there was no real stats or anything to back it up. I just, when I watch Delmonico play, I'm just like, this one good year he's having is just nothing more than that. It's one good year. I don't see a guy like Delmonico being able to continue that. And here we are, in 2018 now. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just not, pretty much every stat, there's nothing that's really jumping out at you. And the White Sox, we've talked about this, are so deep in the outfield with prospects. I mean, even not even prospects, but guys that are up here now. There's so much depth. You've got to be better than that, than what Delmonico is giving you.
I mean, he's also a left-handed hitter. Okay, I get that, but Pelka's already going to give you the left-handed bat. You don't have room. You're running out of guys. You're running out of room on your team for players. You can only have 25 guys on the roster. He's just not doing it. And he's got 3 options, but I don't think he starts the season with the team. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he starts the season with the team.
I'd be surprised.
I'd be shocked if he starts the season in 2019 with this team. So now the other matchup that I've really enjoyed watching, although I kind of already know in the top of my head who's won it, is the battle right now in center field. Ryan LaMarre has got an 848 OPS on the season. And post All-Star break.
Even better post All-Star break.
Read that post All-Star break number.
OPS?
Yeah.
920. He's third on the team. He's third on the team. Well, no, he's second on the team.
No, he's only had 19 games.
Yeah, he's only had 19 games.
But when he's in there, he's hitting .316 with a .341 on-base percentage and a .579 slugging. But here's why Adam Engel is still the starting center fielder for this team in 2019. And LaMarre is most likely also not making the cut once they get this team put together. Okay. In fact, LaMarre and Delmonico are really the 2 fringe players that are outfielders but in reality, look at what LaMarre's hitting. He's beating Delmonico as well. So if you look at their fielding percentage, or actually let's look at their range factor. Okay. Now this is how quickly a guy can get to a ball. The best range factor in the outfield on the team is Adam Engel. Range factor is the total number of outs participated in divided by putouts and assists. It's basically a sabermetric stat that says, how often are you out there making big plays? Adam Engel, of course, we've watched him all year long, and the stat backs it up, okay? He's got a range factor that's the highest on the team.
Now, Chris, I brought this stat up it was probably a couple of months ago when we were talking about Adam Engel. This was before he really picked it up. I had gotten into a fight on Facebook, imagine that, with people who were just like saying that Adam Engel was like, the second coming of Willie Mays. And at that point, all of his defensive stats, when compared with all other center fielders and outfielders in Major League Baseball, he was pretty much dead last in every fielding stat, except for this one.
Right.
He was like top 3 when it came to the range factor stat. So,
and his fielding percentage has gone up a little bit. His fielding percentage has gone a bit up
980.
So,
okay. Yeah, that's
it's
not
getting better
bad.
than what it was at the beginning of the year. He's improving. Now, meanwhile, LaMarre is at the bottom, basically, of range factor, surrounded on either side with Pelka and Delmonico. Those 3 are the 3 worst range factors on the team. Again, another reason why when you look at the stats of Pelka versus Delmonico, and you had to pick one of them, it's very obvious that they're either equal to or Pelka's better in pretty much any category that you're trying to guess. And then looking at the eye test, Pelka wins, right? Find a White Sox fan that doesn't have stats in front of them. They say Pelka or Delmonico. Which one are you picking? They're all taking Pelka.
Right.
Okay. I think this is very obvious. LaMarre's fielding percentage is right down there with them. So, like I said, there's a little bit of a competition there between those 2 guys, but Engel's got it. When you add the defense in with the fact that the guy is hitting now in the second half, he's got it. So, like I said, your outfield next year, There were these battles, but I think we're seeing here as the year is ending, and I like seeing things kind of work themselves out. It's kind of working out how we thought it was going to work out with Delmonico at the beginning of the year. We thought he was kind of a flash, and he wasn't going to be what everybody thought he was in 2017. And even with the injury, but then when he came back, he's had an ample time to go out and play. He's not done anything with the time. I think it would be a stretch to say he makes the team next year.
Yeah.
It would be a stretch to say Nicky Delmonico's on the White Sox in 2019.
Another show is wrapped up. Another show's in the books. Another show is wrapped up. And then by the looks, it's gonna be a good one. And we'll see you next week. And the nude is basement. And the nude is basement. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And it's in the books. Another show is wrapped up. Another show is wrapped up. And by the looks, it's gonna be a good one. Nudie's Basement. Broadcast Basement. The Nudie's Basement. The Broad Basement. Slancha. That was like Dropkick Murphys or something, right? I felt like it.
Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere a podcast can be found, and always on soxinthebasement.com.